turn. We make mistakes, then we live and learn. When life gets tough, and it seems like your best ain't good enough. If you're in need of hope, you know where I'll be. I'll be right here, right here. And when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here, waiting for you.
This is the place you can always turn to when you need a friend. The Lillian McDermott Show. To reach out to Lillian, visit her on the web at whenyouneedafriend.com. Now let's all learn together. Here's Lillian McDermott.
Hello, my listening and viewing friends. This is so wonderful that we could get together on this beautiful, best day ever. And for those of you who are tuning into the classroom for the first time, please know I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go to when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide natural ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening, as well as my viewing friend, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. Now, as you know, we just did a class with Dr. Jacob Teitelbaum, and there were so many things that we wanted to talk about. We decided to do part 2 of our original, which was the 10 tips to having great cognitive health and how to protect our brain and improve and optimize our life as well. And as you know, if you don't have your brain function, there's not really a life. And so, but how do we navigate through the system? How do we navigate through the medical system so that we can treat medicine as we would treat anything like we would buy? If I want to buy something, I'm going to do research on it. I'm going to buy it. I'm not going to just go to the first thing, although sometimes I've done that. But ultimately, when you do the research and you figure out what's the brand you want, well, how much do you want to spend, all these things, then you make the best choice and the best purchase. But we don't do that with our medical health. We don't do that with our health care. We don't do that with things that really, truly matter. And we just rely on maybe what I call the white coat trance, I hear and obey. And that's what we need to stop today. And I'm so grateful that Dr. Jacob Teitelbaum is with us today. This is our second part talk that we started, and I just want to share more information so that we can best equip ourselves to live the life that we want. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that Dr. Jacob Teitelbaum is here to do just that. This is part 2 of our conversation. Can you believe it? We have so much to learn from you. So thank you so much, Dr. Teitelbaum.
Lillian, it's a pleasure to be with you and your gang. And because, we're in a system, and God bless, I just want to start by saying that I've never met anybody in the healthcare system, never anybody in the pharmaceutical industry, at the FDA, doctors, all those, who wasn't a good person who wanted to do the best for people. Mm-hmm. Everybody thinks they're doing the right thing. The problem is and same with politicians. Politicians don't go into, things to take money and graft. They go into for service. We create a system where it's impossible for them to do that without taking massive bribes. But it's the same as, if you look at our healthcare system, it's full of good people, but the system is rotting all the way through. It's just corrupted all the way through by money. And so it's important to be an informed consumer, because if you go to the doctor, your doctor who really wants the best for you, I guarantee you, they are not doing it to make a buck. They're doing it even if they're burnt out a bit because they care about you. But everything they're being fed in terms of what we call continuing medical education, which is where the government forces doctors to listen to drug company advertising. That's in real life what it turns out to be. And
don't hold anything back.
It was the past editor of the New England Journal of Medicine who noted that most continuing medical education is slick pharmaceutical advertising masquerading as science. He's right. You know, so um, so they're all good people, and it's maybe good to step back, Lillian, and have people remember and just take a look and start to notice the difference between propaganda and truth. Because in our modern age, where information is so tightly controlled, it's virtually all propaganda. And when you're swimming in the water, you don't see the water. It's just, it's the fish. You don't notice the air if it's around all the time. It's only when the air disappears for a while that you notice it. Um, so we have a good opportunity now with the war in Ukraine going on, to start to notice what propaganda looks like. Because it's really easy in somebody else's country and somebody else's religion and somebody else's, of course, oh, those silly people, how could they believe that, Uh, and that, why don't they see it? And of course, we're totally oblivious to our own, culture and nation's propaganda. So if you look, it's easy to see at Russia when Russia says, yes, we're going to invade and kill the Nazis who are to save the Ukrainians. And we look at them and say, wow, what a pile of crap. You're going in to invade. But the Russian people, if you talk to most Russians, it's like, yes, that we're defending the motherland from outside attack by NATO and helping the Ukrainian people. They don't they don't see it because this is what the information they are fed is. And in the same way, in our country, we think, do we have propaganda here? Well, let's see. I was born 72 years ago. We have been invading and toppling governments of countries around the world every year but 1 year since I was born 72 years ago. We've been doing what Russia is doing in Ukraine now, but Russia made a mistake because the people in Ukraine are white and Judeo-Christian Europeans. If they were doing this in Africa or the Middle East, nobody would care. So and again, I love America. I think it's a great country. I think it's utterly full of nonsense in terms of a lot of the propaganda. And I would wish we would stop going and invading all the other countries in the world and doing what Russia is doing right now, which is why we, when we go ahead and we do this kind of, thou shalt not, and everybody looks and say, you're the poster child for going and invading countries. I mean, anyway, so you start to see that you can see propaganda for somebody else's. It's a little harder to see it around yourself, but it's worth noticing. And in medicine, what I needed to do, because the propaganda in medicine is that it's our job. We want only scientific, evidence-based medicine with a good, solid data. And that it's our job to protect the weak-minded people out there from getting suckered and being preyed upon by these quacks. Mm-hmm. Quacks defined as anything not pharmaceutical or surgical or medical device. Anything that's competition is quackery, and it's our job to protect them from it. This is the party line. This is the religious dogma that we come up with as a physician. And it's so, and if you go to the conferences, you'll see that they're very, they're really dog and pony shows that are set up to look very scientific. It's just that it isn't. I remember when I started in my right after my residency, I was in the community hospital in Anne Arundel, and they were just doing the clot busters for heart attacks. And the head of Yale's cardiology surgical department came in, and he was giving a talk for the clotbuster company. There was a clotbuster drug that was $200 and one that was $2,000. And he was saying, well, you should use a $2,000 one because there's like a 1/10 of 1% chance of it, or some small amount of difference in mortality. And, I was very polite. And, the reason there was any difference in mortality is because for the competitor's drug, they gave it slowly, which has been shown to decrease the effect. And their drug, they gave it quickly, which increases effect. But when he said, well, if you don't think your patient's life is worth that 0.7%, thing. And at that point, I lost it. And I stood up. I said, the data is completely accounted for, the total difference by the speed of administration in your study. And it was like, you could hear a pin drop. Everyone, but he's the professor of Yale. He's the head of, you can't ask him questions like that. And, what I found is throughout my almost 50 years in medicine now, I'm very good at tearing data apart. I'm a science geek. And I know the universe loves me because it's the most beautiful girl in the world for me to happen to have a thing for science geeks. And she married me. It was like, I don't know. It's I tear data apart. If I look at a study, I look at the title and the conclusion. It gives me an idea. Do I want to bother looking at it further? I mean, there's millions of studies going by. The conclusion tells me who paid for the study.
Oh, really?
Disclosure.
I've never seen who pays for the study in a
Oh,
conclusion.
no. It's, you see, if you can see in language, and the sun came up on mankind today as this our name drug increased things, and they give a data
Oh,
form.
okay, I see
You,
that. Okay.
yeah, no, it's not. It's hidden, but you can pretty much tell. And then I'll look and confirm, and the vast majority of the time, um, it's that study. If it's positive, it was paid for by the company. And I look at the disclosures, which basically says yes, we're all on the payroll. So what? Um, and but then I take the data apart to see what the data actually shows. And sometimes it shows that it works. Sometimes it shows the side effects are reasonable or toxicities. And sometimes it shows that this is an utter piece of crap where they are twisting and tormenting the data for their product. So here's the quickie thing. In medicine, we like things to be randomized, placebo controlled, because it increases reliability 60%, if it is. But the 900-pound gorilla in the room is that when you have a study that's paid for by the drug company, it's 700 to 2,400 roughly percent more likely to show a positive result than if it's done independently, which means that basically we won't accept anything because of the 60% validity if it's lost, if it's not randomized, placebo controlled. But we're accepting a 2,700% validity loss because it's paid for by the drug company. So all the stuff in there is advertising. And they'll say, but we have all sorts of protocols and trials. They're not working. The research is showing this. The evidence-based medicine what the research shows is that the research in our journals today is not accurate and not worthy of being believed. It's not scientifically acceptable because the study being paid for by the drug company invalidates the study scientifically.
So what is your take on anecdotal evidence? So I know I've spoken to many of my the people that I call friends now that I've interviewed, and they say that anecdotal evidence sometimes is much stronger than a scientific study that's been paid for and bought by a particular group. And so what is your take on anecdotal evidence?
In other words, learning from wherever we can learn, it depends on the context. If I am talking about anecdotal evidence that somebody got a $200,000 chemotherapeutic agent that kills 50% of the people who takes it, and they had, well, this one person did 5% better than the average person, that's not going to be enough for me.
Mhm.
But if I have anecdotal evidence that I have 10 people who came along to me and said, I took this and my asthma went away, and that this happens to be Boswellia, which costs a nickel a pill, has no significant side effects, safe, long history of safety, cheap. The person will take it for 6 weeks and they'll know in 6 weeks that their asthma is better. And you say, well, how do you know if it's placebo effect? And what I'm going to tell you is, I don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
If their asthma is better, they're better. Because here's another little thing. We, in trying to invalidate and disempower the public, so only the white coats. Notice how you go in the hospital, first thing they do, they take away everything. They give you a little robe that's open in the back so your butt's hanging out. And, so, and all the power on the white coats, the doctors with the stethoscope, I think if they want, they whip you up the ass and up the hall with their stethoscope, yippee-ki-yay, it's kind of, but your own power as an individual, we don't want that. That just gets in the way of the healing process, damn it. Um, So uh, the you'll take a look at our body's own healing ability, which is rather dramatic. The ability of the body to respond and in a healing manner. What we do is we've taken that response, which is 30% of the healing process roughly, and one of the most powerful things compared to any medications out there, by and large, maybe the exception of penicillins for acute pneumonia. What we've done in medicine is we call that the placebo effect.
Mhm.
We aim to please. What that does emotionally is it invalidates it. It says, oh, well, if you got yourself better, you're never really sick, you're crazy anyway, instead of using your own abilities to heal. So hope is healing. You're, marshaling your own ability to heal is critical. Now, here's another thing. There's the nocebo effect, which used to be called putting a curse on people. If and the studies have shown, if I give you a placebo and I give two placebos, and one I say, oh, there's no side effects, and the other one says, good risk of nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, constipation, dizziness, rectal flatulence, whatever it happens to be. The side effects in the placebo group that were stressed, they go up dramatically. The risk of getting those side effects is well over 30%. So you increase the toxicity. So when the doctor is telling you there's nothing you can do, there's nothing anybody can do, anybody who says they can help you, they're a quack trying to rip you off. Nobody can help. I mean, this is what doctors are doing in their offices.
Yeah.
I would just put some voodoo bones through the nose and a rattle while they're doing that, and a little voodoo doll, and say, this is you.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
putting a curse on people. That's grossly
Well,
inappropriate.
especially when they say, oh, you have 3 weeks to live, or you have 8 weeks to live, or you have, whatever it is. It's like nobody has that crystal ball. And, nobody has that ability to breathe death onto someone without
Yeah.
us accepting it. And it is so important that we as a consumer make sure that when we pick the person that we're trusting, I call my doctor my health coach. He and
Yes.
I sit down, we talk together. He gives me, like, for example, I was having problems with tingling on my toes. And I
Hmm.
called him up and I said, hey, John,
Yeah.
I'm experiencing this. And so he
Yeah.
said, well, before you get go and get an MRI or get a, or what he goes, go get an adjustment with a chiropractor.
Wow. Okay.
And I went, okay. He goes, I'll order everything because I don't have insurance. I have a health share plan, and they don't go through the protocol where he said if you go with the insurance, then you have to go get an X-ray. Then after the X-ray, you have to have 6 weeks or 8 weeks of PT, and then after that, then I can order the MRI. But I told him I don't have insurance. I can follow what we want to do because I have control of my health and where I go or where I want to be. And so he said, okay, well, let me know what I need to do and we'll do it. So I went to the chiropractor. When I do the upper cervical, I don't do the regular where they manipulate your whole bones.
Mhm.
And he immediately said, your atlas is out of whack. So he
Mhm.
did this little thing that he does. I call it voodoo science. I have no idea.
Right. He did
But
a lot.
he after he's done with this little sound thing that goes right by my ear. I lay down for like 15 minutes to half an hour, and all of a sudden I felt my toe and it didn't feel tingly anymore. And I'm like,
Mhm.
well, I'll be, because if I think it's gonna work, it's gonna work. If I think it's not gonna work, it's not gonna work.
Mhm.
And so I was just like open to, okay, will this do it? So I
Mhm.
texted John and I said, hey, John, I just want you to know that my tingling in my toe is gone. He goes, you see, I told you your back was out of alignment. So, I love the fact that I can go back and forth. We're co-learning together. Sometimes I
Yes.
bring things to him that he or Nola, who's the partner in his group. I'll say something to them. They say, because they know what I do for a living, and they listen and they go, okay, well, let's look into it. Next
Mhm.
thing I know, they're getting the book that I'm talking about, and they're doing the research. That is so rare. to find a doctor or someone like you, or someone like the guests on in my class, because I really handpick you guys because I
Well,
want people to know that they exist.
well, that's like going to holistic or complementary physician, and for the website ifm.org.
Hmm.
That's the Institute for Functional Medicine. Or if you live in a state where most now do allow naturopaths to practice, naturopathic.org. You're going to be starting from a pool of people that are much more open-minded and whose education, whose training is much broader than the physician. Basically, as physicians, we're taught basic biochemistry, anatomy, and the rest, and then we are taught what the drug companies and medical product companies are selling.
Hmm.
And the professors and the institutions themselves, because if you look at what skews the information. So if we're looking at all this information coming in, you asked about anecdotal evidence. So I want to finish that.
Hmm.
What I will look at is what's the potential risk and cost? How quickly will I know? And then if it's a very low cost, low risk, high benefit, and the person can tell. I think it's a very reasonable form of evidence, versus if it's a very, very high cost toxic thing, I'm going to need much higher levels of evidence.
I love that. I love that. And this is where we need to stop. And I get this all the time, Dr. Teitelbaum. People come to me and say, "Well, my doctor said I have to do this. My doctor said if I don't take this pill, I'm gonna die, or I'm gonna." And I always say, but what are the side effects? Oh, they only put the side effects on there because they have to, but hardly anybody gets these side effects. So
Well, that
what is the buyer's beware of the side effects of the drugs that you see from the pharmacy that
the
puts
problem
everything?
is that they bury the PDR, or PDF anyway. So uh, when you have the PDR listing and you have the listing from the pharmacy of all the things, a lot of that is written for the attorneys, because the pharmaceutical attorneys know that if we list out the side effect, we're not responsible. So do you think they might get hit by a meter? I don't know, but throw it in. And then what you have is that the common side effects, this is what I'll tell people when I give them the thing. Here are the more common ones to look out for, you know, if people are concerned. And I'll let them know that, if I'm giving somebody an ibuprofen kind of a thing for long-term use, I'm going to let them know, look, if you get acid stomach, take it with food. Pain in your solar plexus, likely get that. If you have difficulty with severe bruising, even though I don't even go into that because it's minor, and I will note that chronically used is a 35% increased risk of heart attack and stroke. So the main risk of Motrin, ibuprofen is about that family of medications is about a 50,000 increased U.S. deaths a year. Yeah. Yeah, you don't hear about that in the media.
No, you don't.
And this is 2 studies, British Medical Journal, of about 1 million people total. Okay, and you wonder why you didn't hear about it in the media? Look to see who their advertisers are.
Correct, correct. And
Okay?
that's one of the reasons I walked away from radio. They wanted the sponsors that they wanted me to have were not sponsors that I would give them benefits, because I'd be talking about how not to use them. And so
Yeah.
I walked away from it, and then I walked into what I'm doing now in 2019. But then there's so much that I cannot say. This year alone, and we didn't discuss this before the class today, this year alone, I think I'm at 18 videos that have been removed from YouTube at this point. This is from the beginning of the year. This is August of 2023, the beginning of the year, which isn't that much. So 18 videos from ranging back to 2018, 2016, 2019. And they're
Mhm.
removing them because of medical
Did,
misinformation.
did they notify you that they removed them, or did they just take them off and you noticed it?
They do remind me. They tell me that it's kind of scary to get these. It's just like the being, being you get to the place which is you're fearful of getting that note, getting that letter, getting that, because sometimes if it's a fresh class, they'll strike me and then I'll be gone for a week or 2 weeks. And even though I keep doing what I'm doing, and I'm not going to let fear Like, to me, love is my driving force. Fear is something that whenever I experience, I stop and I think about, what's the benefit here? How can
Yeah.
I benefit from going forward, even though I'm afraid, or even if I'm fearful, going forward and doing what I feel is truth. And I've just recently had some doctors come on and say, there's a platform or a brand that they go by, and maybe that brand isn't working for them anymore, and they're saying, well, maybe we need to look at this other thing. I respect people that have a particular perspective and a brand, and that's their whole livelihood, and all of a sudden they realize a new truth, and it might not be what they thought it was, and they're able to change, as
Right.
opposed to hide the evidence, hide that I'm not doing this anymore. So there are so many people out there, Dr. Teitelbaum, that we go by just
Yeah.
the name of the individual, and we believe everything they say without checking facts. Now, you are a scientist, you are a medical doctor, you are taught how to tear science apart, but we're not. So what is your advice to us as we are looking at buyers beware, this is what you
Right.
get? What would you say?
Number one, learn to trust your instincts.
Ah, love that. Love that.
Okay, because the a reason we have instincts is because the mind doesn't know. Mind's a wonderful tool. It's like a microscope or a telescope, gives fine detail, but a very narrow range. That's why we try to, as a country, we try to invalidate feelings, invalidate intuition, unless we can use fear to control people, which is the new buzzword. Scare everybody to death and make them hate each other, then you can control them.
Yeah.
Um, so number one, use your intuition. Number two, realize that you need to find your experts. Who is it that you're going to trust? Some good signs is when your expert is not saying this brand or this procedure or this branch of the healing arts or is the only way. Then you're dealing with somebody who's more likely just very vested in that point of view or a religious fanatic. A
Instead
lot
of
of
truth, instead of
uh,
truth.
yeah,
There,
the NIH is basically headed. I hate to say this. I mean, God bless them, nice people, but it's a religious organization controlled by the pharmaceutical industry because there's this big revolving door, and you work there. Anytime something comes up at committee, you want to vote in a way that the drug company's happy because you're going to be applying to that drug company for a job in 5 years, and you want six figures. And this is not a place where there's any kind of adequate scientific science validity. It's basically bought and owned by the pharmaceutical industry. The media, third biggest advertiser for it, depending on how you categorize it, is hooked on drug company advertising. If the pharmaceutical industry says bark like a dog, the editor they will not, the media will not. I knowing a number of the national editors and publishers. Um, I be talking. They say, yeah, when we get a pharmaceutical advertisement, it's not uncommon where the contract says that the magazine agrees to have nothing positive about natural remedies anywhere in the issue in exchange for running this ad. And it's not a big step from there. Okay, you get a bacon bit, you know. Okay, I said something good about who they learn that, oh, they don't like natural stuff. So if we misinform the public about natural stuff, we misquote the studies, we really lie. Okay, I I, I attack the natural thing. They get the bacon bits, more ads. Um, so no, you can't believe it's what's in the media is
what are so you did talk about ifm.org, and I've gone to some of their conferences, and I was just amazed to see how many doctors there are out there that are great doctors that are
over
looking
top.
at integrative, holistic,
Yep,
natural, functional, and
yep,
there are great doctors.
yep.
Unfortunately, another aspect of the buyers beware, and this is why I don't have insurance anymore, I have a health share. They basically say, you've got to go to this doctor and use this medicine. You can't, if you have cancer, you can't go to a functional doctor or an oncologist that is an integrative oncologist because we won't pay for it. But what
Right.
people don't understand is the out-of-pocket expenses when you go to the assigned doctors that you can and that the insurance will pay for. The out-of-pocket expenses exceed what you would have paid if you would have gone to a natural, holistic, integrative, functional oncologist.
Yeah,
And so,
I will note that when people, and I used to do this for people where they would pay me for 6 hours a time, and I'm very good at going through the medical literature. So they'd have a certain type of cancer. I'd get the biopsy, the staging, grading, all the different things. And then for that specific thing, I would look up, okay, what are the best traditional options?
mhm.
Because what most people don't know is that it's legal as a doctor to take kickbacks from the drug companies, with one exception. If you're an oncologist, your payment is based at about 5% of the chemo cost. So if I infuse a chemo that's $100, I get paid $5. If I give something that's $100,000 for the exact same work, I get $5,000. It's the, and I haven't checked lately, but last I checked, there was about a 4.5% kickback that the oncologists got. So the more expensive the chemo, the more, it's not a kickback, it's a handling fee, I think.
Yeah.
Um, so you need to be careful because even the best well-meaning person, if you have a room full of professors who are on the payroll of the drug company going, this will save their lives. You give the cheap stuff, will kill them. If you don't give the most expensive stuff, you're not standing up for your patient. And you have this coming in with hundreds of esteemed professors doing this on the payroll of the drug company. And yeah, certain all the oncologists in the audience are going to be cheerleaders. Give the expensive stuff. It's the right thing to do. Hey, there's $5,000 in my pocket. Oh, what's that? I mean, it's just the whole
Per
thing
person, per treatment.
per treatment,
Yeah.
the course of treatment. So it's all well-meaning people, no bad people out there. But again, how do you find? So what you do, again, you go get your standard opinion. If that's feels comfortable to you and reasonable, then I would just go with it. See how it works. If you get to the doctor to the point where it's not working or you're not comfortable with what's being recommended, that's the time to go see a holistic doctor, or to see, your chiropractor, or to see, because you'll find that if you have a practitioner who really is open and says, yeah, acupuncturists can be helpful, osteopaths can be helpful, psychiatrists can be helpful, naturopaths can be helpful. It depends what you have, and each one has different skills and it's a different tool and uses a whole toolkit. That's a good, definitely one point in that person's favor. If they're going, but it's all that natural stuff is quackery. Oh, really? You spent that much time in literature? I'm impressed. How many hundreds of thousands of studies did you review to be able to do that? I'm sputtering about, waste my time, then bye, you know. But also, it's perfectly okay for the doctor to say, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do to help you. That's okay. If the doctor says, I don't know what's wrong with you, so you're crazy, and even implies that to you and your family, that is abusive behavior. At that point, I get up, I have the person walk over to the doctor, look down sweetly at them, tell them, thank you for letting me know right up front what a complete and utter asshole you are, so I don't waste my time with you. Turn around, out of the room, slam the door, and I've never seen such an abusive bastard. He needs his license removed. Can you call the police? You guys in the waiting room, get the hell out of here. This man is dangerous, and walk. This woman. So there's things that are signs that will kind of tell you. So open-minded. Now, you don't want somebody whose mind is a sieve and doesn't do any reality sifting or testing. There's plenty of those on both sides,
Yes.
So, but then the next thing to do is you start asking your friends. Going online is a little challenging because it's so easy to kind of either attack. They're actually, you'll see holistic doctors are attacked online, and it's pretty clear that it's a pharmaceutical kind of a thing or other groups, because there's people who never met those doctors. They don't know anything about it. They're just making up blatant stuff, or who are posting, yes, our our little troll farm. Well, oh, you want us to say nice things about you. Okay, all 5-star. Yes, 500 of us buy these slippers, all 5-star, and so it's a little hard sometimes to do it.
I look at reviews. I look at the 1s and 2s and 3s. I look at those because I think those are the ones that
But
nobody's
you,
buying.
but
Yeah.
realize sometimes those are put in by the competitors.
True. But when you read
Yeah.
them, you kind of like, okay, what's the motivation here? So we do have to discern. I love your, the trust our intuition, but when our intuition is based from love of self, love for the individual, but when it's based out of fear, people say, oh, that's my intuition. My intuition telling me to run. Your intuition is, your fear is telling you to run. Your intuition may be telling you to run. Did you look into, is it fear driven or is it love driven?
Yes.
What is causing you to run? And once you,
Basically, Lillian, I hate to interrupt, but it's just what you're saying is so important.
okay.
That when the mind isn't about truth either. The mind is about getting your attention and making you identify with it, so it thinks you are your mind. Because otherwise, that's where the ego lies, and that's ego serves its purposes. But it otherwise it disappears. It's very afraid of that. So what the mind tends to come up, especially in our current society where fear sells,
Yeah.
this and disunity sells. Um, if you have a thought that feels bad, it's probably false. Okay. So what I do is, number one, I would look at what's the false belief behind that thought. And number two, there's this interesting thing that you can play a game that whenever you have this negative thought, you're using it to see, okay, this is what I'm focusing in. This is that part of my mind, but it's not all of it like I think. It's this little thing. And you'll notice that there's a part that you can actually look at it. Okay, what's that part that's looking, called a witness? That's looking at that part that's going blah blah blah, chittering monkey, negative, negative, blah blah blah, and you'll see there's this little part, no judgment. It's not thing better or worse. It just watches it. It's called the witness phase, and it, you can use this chittering monkey to help notice where that witness part of us is, and identify with that. Simply become that observer. And then the volume goes way down and the energy's out because what you're identifying with is now the witness, which is balanced, centered, and it's not the monkey mind, as it's called, the chittering monkey is just it's the volume's down. It doesn't. It's just why are you going to bother listening to it? So it takes practice, and as you do that, you get out of that. But once you're back in that centered witness space, now you check again. How does this feel? And you'll know.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I just want to take a moment and talk about my website and then shift to Dr. Teitelbaum's website as well. I just want you to know that we're not alone. We're a community and we're here to help one another. Like I say at the beginning of every single show, it's our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge. And if you want to be able to go there, I'm not married to any of it. I am just sharing information as it comes, whether I believe in it or not believe in it. Mostly it's my truth that I'm bringing up so that you can benefit from it. But there are times where, just like Dr. Teitelbaum spoke about last time, that he believed one thing, and once he was received the evidence, he completely was able to see beyond his belief. And that's where we all need to strive for and be in that state of grace. And so if you're ready to learn some new truths, go to whenyounneedafriend.com. While you're there, please subscribe, like, and follow me on all social media. And check out some of the classes that we've done. Dr. Teitelbaum's been in the classroom for many times talking about dementia, fatigue, and chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia, and but you get to choose what you're going to allow to feed that monkey or feed that brain of yours. So check out our conversations that we've had in the past. Like I said, go to whenyounneedafriend.com, check out my sponsors, support my sponsors the way that they're supporting the classroom. Go to my Shop Now bag, check out all the Lilly approved products from head to toe. so that you know that there are other options there. There are discounts that you can be a part of. There's workshops that are coming up. We've got Dr. Bradley Nelson in November 2023, November 3rd and 4th, coming to do the body code, the emotion code and body code seminar. We have right now, we have the ongoing super gut with Dr. William Davis. We're learning how to improve our microbiome so that we can start thinking differently than the terrorists that we have in our gut right now, making demands on our lives. And so I'm looking forward to doing that with you. And so also go to like my Shop Now bag, look at the workshops that we've done in the past, check out any way that you can improve your life. Finally, you could also become an enrolled student in the classroom, whether it's $1 or $1,000 a month, whatever you can do for your time, your talent, your treasure, one-time thing, whatever you can give is greatly appreciated. I love the fact that every single doctor that we have that comes into the classroom is sharing of their time, their information, all the stuff that they are giving to us. So take time and research it if it resonates with you. Today we have Dr. Jacob Teitelbaum, MD, and you can find him at vitality101.com, or you can also find him at endfatigue.org, right? Endfatigue.com.
.com. That's
Endfatigue.com.
That's where I carry the websites that I found from different countries, companies around the planet work the best. I don't take money from any of the pharmaceutical industry. That's another way you can look at it, is who's paying the bill. So yeah, for supplements, I recommend endfatigue.com. But if you're saying, well, okay, but on my instinct says he's selling stuff, I'll give you a trick. Anything I recommend, go to Amazon, and I won't make a penny except the smart energy system, but everything else, or almost nothing else. And this way you can say, okay, he's not making anything at all. And you know what I'll feel about that? Cool.
Good,
If you,
good. That's what
and
we want to look for. Now, there was something that I said to you at the beginning. We have about 10 minutes left in the class today, and I'm so grateful. This is our extended time with Dr. Jacob Teitelbaum. I mentioned I would love to talk to you about the emotional component, because when I am coaching someone and I'm hearing them speak about whatever illness they have, although I'm not a health coach, I am a life coach. I'm a certified life coach. But it's amazing how much you need to understand, self-love and be able to be open for trying different things, as opposed to the typical allopathic, this is the only way or you die approach. And
yeah,
one of the things that I notice, that many of the times that they're speaking to me about different medications, different things that they're doing, there is zero, and why they're coming to me, zero opportunity for self-reflection, forgiveness,
mhm.
pardoning and forgiving yourself and others. Can you share about the emotional component? Because here we are talking about medicine and the placebo and the nocebo effect and all of that. But let's talk about the emotional component of dis-ease, and how when you deal with some of these emotions that we're dragging around like a sack of potato, 100-pound sack of potato, if we deal with it, it's something that we can deal with so that we can remove the weight of the burden of that particular memory or action that we need to do. Can you share a little bit about the emotional aspect?
Absolutely. And then I'd like to go back to a thing when the doctor says there's nothing they can do for you.
Mhm.
What do you do? So, but again, you give the example in terms of the mind thing. There's many layers of what's going on with that. And you just gave the thing of this this rocker carrying around with you. And the Chinese word for illness is basically, or the expression that was described as an old man carrying around a bag of rocks they think are feathers. No, a bag of feathers that they think are rocks.
Mhm.
So you have that image carrying a bunch of feathers, but we think that it's rocks and it's weighing us down. Um, and much of disease, there's many different things causing it. There is a certain amount of, yes, you have this bug, you have COVID coming in. But what they don't publicize is research showing if you have a house with a big family, 1 in 6 people will catch it. The other 5 will not at that time. So how strong your body is your own defenses, whether your gut defenses, whether the nutritional defenses, or whether your emotional state of mind, all of these dramatically affect illness. So, number one, if you're finding yourself worrying about stuff, that's either stuff that's in the past and it's gone, or it's stuff in the future that never hasn't happened yet, probably will not happen. And the 1 in 100 times when it does happen, if you've noticed, you've always managed it and you've come out alive and doing okay. So when you notice yourself worrying about stuff past or future, if you're not doing specific problem solving, if you're just chewing the same thing over and over and not spinning a rut, I just want you to get in the habit of dropping that thought and mid thought and shifting your attention to something that feels good. You can have some comedy shows on your phone. You can do something that feels good and just keep shifting your attention to that. After a while, you'll break free. Um, as you continue to do your inner work, and we talked on the other show a little bit about, even before, about the the witness state and learning how to center from the thoughts we talked earlier today about that. Um, but once you start feeling better and you've taken care of the physical components, there's a critical question. It's a tough one, but you need to let go of any judgment and things, which is, how did this illness or how does this illness serve me? And if you need to have a couple shots of tequila before you ask yourself that question, that's
Ole.
that's totally okay to do. Remember, because our American approach of things, where you fix the blame instead of the problem. That's the American way, damn it.
Mhm.
Whose fault is it?
Yeah.
You know, what a useless waste of time. Um, we are going through the illness, and what we went through is exactly what we needed to. When I had the chronic fatigue syndrome, it left me homeless, sleeping in parks, devastated my life, and it was perfect. It
Mhm.
led me on a spiritual journey and a medical journey of growth and a healing journey that was just amazing. So, in retrospect, that always turns out for the best. So, but how does it serve? And so often, and for me, I couldn't say no. I got dragged into being a family mediator and a bunch of crazy people.
Mhm.
My family, well, most of them were Auschwitz survivors, and they're sweet and they're loving, but it was not a healthy emotional experience for them. And I couldn't say no. And that part of it was that what my illness taught me, in addition to how to help millions of people get better from chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, and pain, is it taught me to say no to things that don't feel good. And it gave me the permission to do so without having to be able to justify it in my mind. It's called setting boundaries. So, does your illness get you out of a toxic job, away from a toxic boss, so you can actually stay home with your kids and take care of your kids instead of everybody else's while your kids flounder? Well, good for the illness, then. Okay. And how is it serving you? Now, the next thing is, once you can accept how it serves me, yes, it serves me because that was a job from hell and I didn't want to be there, or whatever, or I really need to be home with my kids, or whatever it is. Once you do that, now the next thing is, okay, well, how can I do the logistics? Because it doesn't make you not disabled to be conscious of this. It doesn't make you less appropriate getting your disability policy or whatever. And it doesn't make it any less okay for you to just say no. So then you say, okay, how can I create what I want? Being at home, making a living without being with this toxic company or boss or whatever. Fill in the blanks. It could be any of 100 things, countless things. You'd be amazed. Um, and okay, I give myself permission to create that without the illness. And you don't have to make any sudden changes. You just start to, and having a good coach to guide you through this process. Once you know that, and coach, I want to get to where I can make my living and be home with my kids and okay, having somebody guide you, that's totally reasonable. It's a good thing to do. Um, so you see how it serves you. Um, and then again, a key thing, you learn to say yes to things that feel good because they feel good. And as long as they work out for you, you say yes to heroin, it'll feel good for about 5 minutes, but it's not going to work out for you overall.
Yeah.
So does it feel good and how does it work out for you? And you learn to say no to things where you're not going to be homeless or arrested, you know,
I
and
love
that,
that.
yeah.
I love that. I love the question, because what people hear sometime when I say that this is an emotional component, uh, and that once you release that, it's amazing how the body will allow itself to heal, because we're the ones that are stopping it. What people hear instead is it's all in your head. And
Yeah,
that's
that's not a,
not, it's not in your head. It is actually a manifestation of what we're trying to suppress in our
yeah.
body.
Lillian, this research shows that if you have increased rage or resentment, your risk of having a heart attack goes up dramatically, several hundredfold, your risk of heart disease. So if somebody comes on the intensive care unit to crushing chest pain and the EKG looking like they're about to die, am I going to go and say, well, if you just let go of that resentment and learn forgiveness, um, we don't need any of this medical stuff. No, I mean, this guy's going to die. They need all the things. If I need to defibrillate him, I need the whole thing.
Yep.
And a month later, 6 weeks later, when they're in recovery, now we may want to look at the mind-body component, which is also, and the same multiple sclerosis, which is repressed rage, is what people are so sweet with this disease. Uterine cancer, ovarian cancer, helpless, hopeless personalities. Every illness, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, not being able to say no, being people pleasers. Each illness has its reflection in the psyche. It doesn't make it any less real. It just gives you one more tool that you can go ahead and heal with.
Very true. And this is the good news. If I create this, if I was part of the creation of whatever illness it is, then I can be part of the solution. And
Uh-huh.
I am the solution. I am the God in me is the solution. And so that is one of the things that I absolutely love, digging deeper so that people understand that we are, like you said, I love that when you said they're carrying a bag of feathers, but they think they're carrying rocks. And that is so true. And it's that change of perspective. It's that change. And I love how you talk about hope. I love the questions. I remember interviewing John, the Venus and Mars, John, oh gosh, I know his name. It'll come to me. But John Gray from
Oh,
Venus and
brilliant.
Mars.
Mhm.
And we were doing a show, and all of a sudden he said something that just completely rocked me, he said that there is a benefit when you ask that first question, how is it serving me? That victimization releases the same kind of endorphins that is released when you're working out or when you're eating chocolate, or so people can become addicted to being a victim. People can become addicted to being unhealthy. People can become addicted to all these things because there is a payoff. There are prices and there are payoffs for everything in our life. And what I've learned is that we don't do things unless there's a payoff.
Mhm. Well, unless you look, well, the payoff is often simply that it feels good. And here's the thing, we're taught, if we look at our language is so full of judgments. You look at the word selfish. What the word selfish means is don't take care of yourself. I want you to give yourself to me.
That's right.
Okay. So instead of selfish, it's personally self-responsible. There's nothing
Wonderful.
wrong. In fact, it's a very wonderful thing to take care of yourself. And from that place, as you have plenty, you're going to naturally feel good to take care of others. I mean, I probably give close to a third of my income goes to charity each year. And it's not because I sacrifice the rest, it's because it feels good. I love doing it. You know? So, but here's the thing too, empowerment. We talked about owning how it serves you, but also, and we talked about the doctor putting a curse on you. There's nothing can be done. You're going to be dead in 2 months. It's a voodoo curse. That's not a medical statement. Um, so when your doctor says that, what you recognize is he's in a little box or she's in a little box, well-meaning, and what they're saying is, sorry, there's nothing I can do for you.
That's right.
That I can do for you.
Right.
And tell them thank you and go find somebody who can.
Right.
I know when I was doing literature searches for the different kind of cancers, I don't remember a single time, unless it was so rare that there's no research done on a type of cancer. But I didn't find all these things that blew my mind. They're natural, cheap, low-cost things that were highly effective. And I put together the report, and these are things that the evidence really suggests works a lot. And I realized, Lillian, that I'm really lucky that I came up with an effective treatment for chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia and now long COVID, because otherwise, if I had come up with an effective treatment for cancer, I would be in jail.
I'll let that sink in with people, because there's not much we could say after that. I mean, there is a documentary called Cancer, the Forbidden Cures. And it's sad, well-intentioned, find the cure, everybody gets excited, and then all of a sudden they're a villain. They're the worst person on earth. They're the ones that are put in jail. And they're villainized, being called quacks and
Yes.
opportunists. And
And you know
so
what the crime was? The crime was finding a treatment that's not patentable and therefore not extraordinarily expensive. If they found something patentable, then they're a hero. If they found something cheap, jail.
That's right. That's right. And so this is part of what we get to learn. And as we continue to become our own MD, our own medical detective, to become an informed consumer, not just to buy a car, not just to buy your latest food or greatest, drink, to also look at our health that way. And so today, Dr. Teitelbaum, I'm so grateful to you for helping us see that there is another perspective, there's another way that we can become an informed consumer and
Can I give
make the best choices. Sure.
2 quick tools? The Cures A to Z, CURES, capital A-C phone app. It's a free phone app, $2 upgrade. It's like having my brain in your pocket. You look up 100 conditions from A to Z, and it'll just give you, here's how I would approach it. Number 2, if you have serious conditions and you're trying to figure out, Life Extension Foundation tends to do a very good job with their writing up the articles for each specific health issue. So with my Cures A to Z is a quick, short, and sweet. The Life Extension Foundation has a long library of stuff, and they have good products also. And no, I don't take a penny from them or any of them.
So Life Extension, that's lifeextensionfoundation.org.
You'd have to look it up because they had to change it because the government messed with them in terms of, so just look up Life Extension Foundation.
I will do that. I will do that.
Okay. And now you've got good basic things. You've got your gut instincts. You've got the whole medical toolkit with all the different healthcare people. Back to you, Lillian.
Thank you so much. I would love to do a third show in a row, but it's so wonderful. I want to get you back into the classroom again. Thank you so much. Remember, you can go to vitality101.com. You can go to fatigue.com, and there's so many, like I don't even have like little notes for myself here, but I am just grateful for you. Go to Cures A to Z. I'll probably post a link. It's an app in your phone that you can just click on. I carry Dr. Teitelbaum in my pocket and my phone all the time as well, and you can too. Thank you, Dr. Teitelbaum. It's always an honor to sit with you and learn.
Likewise. Be well, everyone.
Yes, and please remember, we'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. This is Lillian McDermott and Dr. Jacob Teitelbaum wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day
ever.
Good job. I love it. I love it.
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian McDermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert before